It's Afterburner. Hey, welcome everybody. We're here after a 4-3 loss in overtime for the Calgary Flames to the Boston Bruins. My name's Mike Gould, as you probably know. That's Ryan Pike to my left or right or whichever way it comes up on your screen. And we're here after this game, which was certainly a Thursday game in November, a game which saw the Calgary Flames fall behind, come back again for the second game in a row, but ultimately it was a bit of a miscommunication behind their own net in overtime, and that sealed the deal with Brad Marchand getting a couple whacks at it to slip it past Dustin Wolf to secure the victory for Boston and the loss for the Calgary Flames. Pike, it's been a big day around the network, and to cap it off with a loss like this, well, maybe it's just suitable Calgary Flames fashion to do something like that. But in any event, what did you take away from that?
I don't know what you mean with like this loss like this stuff. Like that was a really entertaining game, and I'm sure their current level of play hasn't really belayed this season. But the Boston Bruins are an outfit that folks think could do some interesting things this year, particularly in the spring and potentially closer to June. They're part of a handful of teams that I think could credibly claim to be a Stanley Cup contender, at least theoretically. They haven't played that way for much of the year, but they definitely have that potential. And especially at home, they're a tough team to beat. And the Calgary Flames played a game where they led for precisely 0 minutes and 0 seconds of the game, and they got a point in a tough building where they entered the third period down 2 goals. And in a lot of situations, the home side will, throw it in the neutral and just sort of coast and just take it home from there. And the Boston Bruins, many times against many opponents, have had a 2-goal lead heading into the third and just won in a walk. They did not win in a walk against the Calgary Flames. Before the show started, I joked that much like I think the Montreal game, this was the 24-25 Calgary Flames in a nutshell. All their strengths and flaws were sort of out in the open. They got off to a rough start. They were kind of leaky defensively. Their puck management, especially in their own end, left a lot to be desired. But they also got some performances from a lot of individuals and groups of individuals that allowed them to will themselves into a point through 60. And this is the kind of point that, if you're a team that has designs on being a playoff team, whether or not you should, but if you have designs on being a playoff team, points like this on a Thursday in November are the difference between often making it not. And the Calgary Flames are hanging around for now, and points like this are how they hang around.
Yeah, that's some salient analysis, and it does make sense. I mean, it was just the finish, I think, that was maybe a little bit more frustrating to certain fans with the way that, they did play well, especially in overtime after they came back. A bit of a slow start, but what can you do about that? At the end of
it was sweet on sweet crime. Rasmus Andersson gets his pocket picked by Elias Lindholm, and then Brad Marchand has enough time and space to get a couple whacks going. I mean, I think it speaks to how good Elias Lindholm can be in specific situations, and Brad Marchand's kind of a pest, but he's also a hell of a hockey player.
Yeah, Rasmus Andersson will want that one back, but hey, that's the way that it goes. Elias Lindholm, it's kind of like a faucet. You can turn him on and off. And in that last shift in overtime, he was pretty on all over Rasmus behind the net, forcing that turnover. Rasmus had so much time with the puck, just couldn't get rid of it. And all of a sudden, the Boston Bruins able to just tap it home. Pike, I want to get your thoughts, though, before we get really deep into the game. A lot has been made of Dustin Wolf being tapped again tonight for his second consecutive start after they did the same with Dan Vladar. And Dustin Wolf ends up stopping 34 of 38. It is technically a save percentage below 900, but I thought he did pretty well for himself, battled right to the end. And I mean, you look at it, even that last goal at overtime, he made the initial save. The only problem was that there was nobody there to clean up the rebound for that second chance. What did you make of the Flames number 32?
I was good. I mean, if you look at the goals he gave up, he didn't really have a heck of a big chance on any of them. There's a few, in close deflections, a couple, 10-ball chances right in front of him. And, it's against a team like that. I mean, Pavel Zacha is not going to, biff it from the slot too often. Same with, Hampus Lindholm made a beautiful little deke, and Cole Koepke in close on a little tap in. I mean, there's some, again, I mentioned some leaky defensive play. If you give teams an opportunity to get those chances in the home plate area, some are going to go in. That's why they're high danger chances. But I thought, much like the Boston, or much like the Montreal game, Wolf, he was busy, he was battling, he was engaged, he took a penalty. I mean, what more? He did what he could to keep his team in it, and especially in that overtime period. I mean, he was blocking passes across the slot, he was firing passes around, like he was a puck handler in the overtime period, to the degree we haven't seen since. I'm trying to think of effective puck handling. I can't remember what we've seen. I mean, one of his sojourns out ended with a minor penalty, but for the most part, I thought he did everything that could be asked of him, and three goals against in the game, 4 overall, 3 at 5-on-5. You can't really blame any of them on him, and he did everything he could except score goals.
Yeah, I was wanting to take an opportunity to maybe look back at that tripping penalty by Wolf, as you so eloquently put it in our Afterburner chat, very exclusive Afterburner chat. Wolf is not going to be winning the Lady Byng, I don't think, after coming out to dive at that puck and lose, I think, a little bit of his positioning. Take
line with not many Flames, especially near him. I'm sure the Bruins fans did not think he tripped over the blue line, but it looked like he hit a rut. And I think a lot of guys were sort of having some issues with that. But yeah, I mean, if you're a young goalie, you got to do things to learn things. And I think he's still played like less than 25 games in the NHL. He's still a baby by NHL standards, but he's been very good. If you look at the rookie save percentage numbers amongst NHL rookie goaltenders, he's very high up. 5-on-5, he's still amongst the NHL's league leaders in save percentage. He's been sort of victimized a bit by some wonky special teams performances, and I think Dan Vladar has too. But I think early on, if you're, there's been various outlets doing their 15% way through the season navel gazing, going, how the hell are the Calgary Flames still hanging around? And one of the answers is they've gotten good enough goaltending on most nights to paper over whatever deficiencies they've had in any given night. And this, we saw it against Montreal. We saw it again tonight.
Yeah, the Flames team save percentage isn't quite as high as it was to start the season, but it's still pretty good considering some of the issues that their defense has faced at certain points. And you look at it even with a save percentage below 800 or below 900 tonight. Wolf still up at 906 on the year, which is just a little bit above what the league average was last year. 4-2-1 on the year through 7 games with a 3.1 goals against average, kind of a symptom of how many shots the Flames have allowed at certain points, and just the overall, I think, trends league-wide of scoring increasing, and very much on par with Dan Vladar. I think it's very fair to say that both of them have had strong starts to the season, and I think the Flames could maybe stand to give, especially Wolf, a little bit more support at times, but nevertheless, that's something that they will continue to grow at as things progress here. We'll take a moment here just to talk a little bit about our friends at Square. If you run a restaurant, you don't have time to even listen to this ad. Get back to the fry station or something. But if you're taking that extra bit of time, even still, you're probably thinking about how to get more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to squareup.com/ca/en/campaign/BIGINRST. Once again, that is squareup.com/ca/en/campaign/BIGINRST to see why Square is big in restaurants. You can repeat all that last one, BIGINRST. I think I got that right. And that's where you can go to get your Square setup all complete. So Yeah, I thought Wolf was pretty square for a lot of the night when it came to staring down his shooters, but did have somebody in the chat saying, "Well, I thought he looked a little bit off center on that first goal." So might as well just take that opportunity to go back through the way that this game progressed, going back to period number 1 when Hampus Lindholm opened the scoring. Just 2:04 into that opening frame, David Pastrnak and Pavel Zacha getting the assists, and Pike. Dustin Wolf allowing the first goal 2:04 into the game. There was good news that came a little bit after that, but not necessarily the quickest start off the gate for the Flames. And I think the starts have been kind of what have impacted them a little bit more recently. We've seen them having to come back in a lot of games. We saw it against Montreal, and we saw it again tonight. And Wolf ends up kind of over in the trapezoid on this play, although I don't know if it was necessarily his fault.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of thing where the defender has you have Hampus Lindholm sneak in behind the defender. I think on the broadcast they showed a nice little replay of it later where the defender sort of rotated towards the point when Lindholm was pivoting down from the point and got chasing. And if you're David Pastrnak, I mean he's good. And he can thread the needle with a pass, and he gave Lindholm tons of time. And for Wolf, all you can do is try to stretch out and get as big as he can. But when you're making the chance like that, there's not really much you can do there.
Yeah, let's go back onto the positive side a little bit here. As 19 seconds after the Bruins score their first goal, the Flames respond with one of their own, and it is a first as a Flame for Tyson Barrie, who I've actually kind of liked these last few games, the way that he's been able to chip in a little bit more in the offensive zone, while being pretty steady, I think, just generally speaking. I think he's
now, and I believe he's now second on the team behind only Rasmus Andersson in 5-on-5 points. He wins the draw clean. They get to the point. It's right after the third pairing sort of gets victimized for a goal against. They put the third pairing, they keep him out, throw the fourth line on, and this is what happens when you have a fourth line that can contribute. I think in years past, the fourth line has sort of been in a deficiency, an island of misfit toys. Here's who we have left amongst the forwards. But this year with Ryan Lomberg and increasingly more and more Justin Kirkland, and to be honest, whoever's left tonight, it was Kevin Rooney. But they've performed really well and given the Flames good minutes and been difference makers. Imagine if you're the Bruins and you get your legs under you with a 1-0 lead for the remainder of the period. It's a completely different hockey game.
Yeah, shots even with Kirkland on the ice at 5-on-5 tonight. Chances looked a little more lopsided, but what are you going to do? What Kirkland's doing right now kind of reminds me a little bit of those crazy runs that Jamie Lundmark would go on back when he was at the Flames, where just everything he touched seemed to be going in for extended periods of time. He would sort of be up around
he had
half
one year
game.
like that.
No, he had two. I remember, when he because I think he was in the Conroy trade, wasn't he, with the Kings the next year? But he had a little run with the Flames in the post-lockout year here where he was up about a point a game over 12 games. And then the one that I remember better was in the 08-09 season when he had 16 points in 27 games. And then he got, sent to the Leafs, and he never really played much after that. But just a guy who just comes up and somehow looks even more seamless in the NHL than he does in the American League. Walker Duehr was kind of like that for a period of time a couple of years ago. But I think Kirkland has a little bit more projectability in his game. Not to say that Duehr maybe necessarily couldn't stick if he came back up. But, yeah, Kirkland has done a really admirable job of finding his niche at the NHL level, because so many guys who come up, especially so many veteran AHL players who come up, just never find that niche.
Yeah, he's easily one of the more fun stories of the year for the Flames. He's it's hard to poke holes at Kirkland. I mean, much like the great products at Costco, he's providing tremendous value at low prices. And for a guy who's on a league minimum deal and came to Calgary, I think for an opportunity or the potential opportunity, he's really taken advantage of it.
No, I can't say it any better than that. So that was the Flames' first goal in period number 1. Period number 2 saw the Bruins take 15 shots on Dustin Wolf, and they ended up scoring on a pair of them, with Pavel Zacha and Cole Koepke tallying back-to-back about 30 seconds apart in period number 2. And it looked like at that point, Pike, looked like things were maybe going to start to unravel a little bit, but the Flames managed to keep them a little bit at bay after that. That first pass to the middle for Pavel Zacha, I mean, just a heck of a shot there from the slot for a player who has really come into his own as a member of the Boston Bruins over the last couple seasons. And then Cole Koepke, another kind of unusual story, a player who I didn't really have pegged as any sort of prospect and is now among the Bruins' leading scorers this season, getting his team up by 2. And it was kind of a difficult little run of things there for the Flames midway through that second period.
Challenge when they score another goal while they're still announcing the previous one. And on that one, I mean, bless his heart, Tyson Barrie has his skills. Defending isn't the thing that got into the NHL, nor is it the reason the Flames signed him. He's paired with Braden Pahal for a reason. Braden Pahal's lauded as a very good meat and potatoes defenseman. In that case, the puck carrier got around Barrie, got a pass off, and Pahal, I don't think, knew that Koepke was directly behind him with the stick on the ice. And as a result, you hiccup. There's 31 seconds between the two goals, and the Bruins got themselves a pretty comfortable lead at that point.
Yeah, Cole Koepke getting that goal, 26 years of age. This is really his first long string in the NHL, and he's got 8 points in 15 games with the Bruins. Tough for Dustin Wolf, especially when the defenseman just gets beat to that far post. Not a whole lot you can do as a goaltender, as good as Dustin Wolf is laterally. And to address a question in the chat, no, Cole Koepke not related to Cami Koepke. Slightly different spelling in that last name. Cami's,
and I believe they're from different parts of the continent as well.
I was going to say Cami's a BC gal, and Cole Koepke's from Minnesota. So not quite the same, but nevertheless, that's good word association from the chat. So points for you there. So we'll move on to the third period, which has been a lot more favorable for the Flames pretty much all season long. And I was listening to part of the third period on the radio. I was a little disappointed that the commentator Derek did not find a way to utter the words "find a way Flames," although I think that's a little played out at this point. But nevertheless, the Flames do score 2 goals. They find a way to push this one into overtime. Yegor Sharangovich staying hot, I guess. He gets his second goal of the season. But he tips in a long-range shot on the power play by Mackenzie Weegar. Matt Coronado gets the secondary assist on that one. His first assist of the season. And Yegor Sharangovich, I mean, the great thing about Sharangovich is he can score in so many ways, and I don't think enough people realize just how good his hand-eye coordination is. Because if you go back and watch his 31 goals from last year, I don't know if you realize just how many of them were on those high tips.
A lot of success on the power play this year. The power play has been arguably a hindrance more than a strength at times. You can make a case for the Flames. They're a decent, I think if you look on paper, you'd assume so 5-on-5 team that is propped up by their special teams. It's kind of been the opposite this year. And it's been confusing to a lot of folks because you would imagine it'd be the opposite. But, this is a case of, their key players scoring key goals at key times. And this became a theme this period, Mike.
It did. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. It's just funny, though. You say that, like, you look at this Flames roster, and you would think you'd be able to assemble 2 good power play units on it, or at least one, because they have so many players who would strike you as being really good in the offensive zone without a lot of room to skate. And for some reason, it just hasn't happened that way, but I'm sure it'll come around at some point. The percentages are bound to improve. I mean, if Sharangovich continues playing like he's been playing, because he's got 2 points in 7 games, but he's been shooting the puck as good as I've seen him shoot the puck, and that's a pretty high bar for him since he's come over from New Jersey. He's been by far their best shooter. If he keeps shooting the puck like he's shooting it, he'll score a lot more goals, and he's a big catalyst for that power play. So we'll just have to see how things progress from there. And then a little under 9 minutes later, it was Nazem Kadri, who has been as hot and cold as any player on the Flames this year. When he's on, he's looked great. When he's been off, it's been rough at points. He wires home his 5th of the season. Kevin Bahl gets the only assist on the play. Bit of a fragmented 2.
You don't know the shot direction, nor do you know when he's releasing it. You know nothing because of the way Zadorov played that puck, but also because of the way, Kadri is a fairly savvy veteran. And I think that's as much Kadri reeling him in a bit with holding onto the puck just enough. And, it turned out okay. It got into the net.
Pike, just offhand, do you know what the shots on goal were with Nikita Zadorov on the ice at 5-on-5 tonight?
Oh God, infinity to 1.
No, well, I think you're not far off. 15-6 for Calgary. The shots on goal with Nikita Zadorov on the ice at 5-on-5. He finished the game with 16-37 at even strength. Shot attempts were 21-10 for Calgary. Goals were 2-1 for Calgary. Expected goals percentage for Zadorov tonight, 29%. Last among Boston defenders.
And that's playing at home when Jim Montgomery can decide what Flames forwards to put Zadorov out against.
I mean, we've seen Zadorov. We saw it firsthand 3 years ago. We've seen him struggle to adjust to a new team. He really struggled in his first year under Daryl Sutter here with the Flames. But oh boy, the Flames did not have him signed until 2030 at $5 million per season. They had him signed, if memory serves, for 2 years at $3 million per season. Or actually, no, it was for 1 year. Pardon me. It was 1 year, and then they got an extra year. They got an extra 2 years when they re-signed him. Zadorov in Boston so far has been drawing the ire of some of their fans, and it just has not looked good for him, quite frankly, or Elias Lindholm to a certain extent. Pike's back on board. Good to see.
Apropos of nothing, I wanted to see how much money Kevin Bahl is signed for. Kevin Bahl is making $1.05 million this year, and in addition to being just an absolute metronome of defensive stability, he's got a few good points. And someone in the chat mentioned nice little chip there to spring Kadri with some speeds to the neutral zone. I mean, Kevin Bahl, I don't think anyone's going to be putting him on Norris ballots anytime soon. But if you're the Flames, for the same amount of money, you might lean towards Bahl, but for the amount of money they're both getting, or in Bahl's case, not getting, I think Bahl's sneakily one of the better bargains in the National Hockey League right now.
In addition to having 2 more points than Nikita Zadorov, Kevin Bahl is averaging more than 2 minutes more per game than Nikita Zadorov, while being 5 years younger than Nikita Zadorov. And like you said, Pike, he's signed for a pretty cheap amount. I mean, the Flames had the benefit of patience with Nikita Zadorov, and they had the benefit of having a guy who was one of the best coaches in the league at molding young defensemen. I think we can both agree on that. In Daryl, who, short shelf life be damned, he had a gift for getting the best out of those big young defensemen who could skate to a certain extent. And Zadorov played his best hockey of his career under Daryl. I would be really hesitant about signing that guy for 5 years. The Bruins did not hesitate to do it, and we'll see how it treats them. I am not convinced, but in any event,
hey, if to play devil's advocate, if you think you're a Nikita Zadorov or an Elias Lindholm away from having a parade, you do what you think you need to do to sign them, and then you pledge to worry about the mess you made later. And we'll see how it turns out.
One more comparison. Nikita Zadorov this year has 27 penalty minutes. Kevin Bahl, let me just double check again, has 5. Or sorry, even better, 4. He's got 4 penalty minutes.
He's got 2 minors.
Yeah, I thought he had a fighting major. Yeah, 27-4. Those are your penalty minutes through 12 games? Oof. I mean, yeah, in any event.
I think it's 14 now.
Yeah, 14. Okay, sure. And for Boston, it's 15. In any event, I would be pretty happy if I'm Craig Conroy, and I'm at a point where, Jacob Markstrom, you trade him for a first-round pick. That was what they wanted to get. Kevin Bahl, kind of the secondary piece. But I think Kevin Bahl is going to turn into a really interesting player for this team. So in any event, that was how we got to overtime in this game, with Nazem Kadri sniping home his 5th of the season. But then in overtime, no shortage of chances. We saw 9 total shots in overtime. Sometimes, like last game, all it takes is 1. But in this case, it took 5 shots for Boston, I believe, to get that game-winning goal. And for Brad Marchand, it was his 2nd shot on Dustin Wolf in that little quick succession. And again, we'll go back to it. Rasmus Andersson off this face-off win. I mean, you got to get rid of this puck. But also, you have to give a lot of credit to Brad Marchand because that's a really veteran-savvy play to get his stick on that rebound. And he's going to play for Team Canada at the Four Nations in February. He's probably going to play with Sidney Crosby. He's learned a thing or two from playing with Sidney Crosby, that hand-eye coordination, those reflexes. It's a play that's going to be tough for Dustin Wolf every single time, but he sure wasn't helped out by nobody covering him.
Yeah, he think that's you wait to see who makes mistakes in overtime, and this was a situation where there's guys got a little bit bunched up. You don't count on your best defenseman getting his pocket picked by a pretty good forward, but I mean that's what happens. I mean, I think if you look at the balance of the game, the Bruins were probably the better team overall. The Flames stuck with them. And if based on the body of work the Flames have put in, as I mentioned off the top, of the 0 minutes and 0 seconds spent leaving TD Garden with a point is, I'm going to call it highway robbery, but it's not too far from it.
Well, with the loss, the Flames fall to 7-5-2 on the season. They're now at 16 points in 14 games, just 1 point up of the Vancouver Canucks, who have 3 games in hand. But they are 3 points up on the Edmonton Oilers, who have lost back-to-back and have the same number of games played. So that'll be something to watch for the time being going forward. So we're going to be back in just a second here. We're going to take a quick step back for the presentation of the Alberta Blue Cross Meaningful Moments of the Week. It's a presentation of Alberta Blue Cross. If you're planning a trip, make sure you remember to pack travel insurance. When you've got Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. And with that, we'll turn it over to our buddy, Ryan Pinder.
Hey guys, it's Pinder. It's time for your Alberta Blue Cross Meaningful Moment of the Week. It's a presentation of Alberta Blue Cross. Well, no doubt about this one. Final 3 minutes in Montreal, their only visit to the Bell Center of the year, and Matt Coronado picked a pretty good time for his 3rd goal of the season, only to follow it up with a 7-second in overtime winner, a 2-goal night. His first 2-goal night against goalies on both goals of the season. That, without question, a big night for the Flames sophomore.
Coleman, backhand wraparound stop. Coronado, his shot blocked. Coronado again. Coronado some room. Coronado shoots, scores! Matt Coronado ties it for Calgary. What a shift.
Coronado's 2-goal night, giving the Flames a victory in Montreal. Absolutely your Alberta Blue Cross Meaningful Moment of the Week. If you're planning a trip, make sure you remember to pack travel insurance from Alberta Blue Cross. When you've got Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. For more, visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information.
That first goal that Coronado scored, I mean, everybody loved the overtime winner, and it was a great goal. That first one, it was kind of like, it took me back to, being a kid and watching Jerome and watching Camilleri take those shots. Just the poise. I was so impressed by how he held on to the puck. He didn't make a quick play. He didn't throw it down the ice, didn't try to get a cycle going. He just said, no, I'm going to call my own number. I'm going to hold on to it, cut to the middle, take that shot. I have had a lot of, criticism for Matt Coronado. I've had a lot of praise for Matt Coronado, and that was a play worthy of a ton of praise because it was just fantastic.
We use the phrase "goal scorer's goal" a lot, and it's almost to the point where it's lost all meaning because I think we overuse it at times. But that was he makes that little play, the spin to completely lose that one defender. Notices he's got a bunch of ice in front of him, and just goes to the high rent district to see what he can do with it. And, that's the kind of thing that confident players do. And not to say that Matt Coronado doesn't have reason to be confident. If you look at his body of work since turning pro, he's definitely earned the confidence that he has. But, for a guy that's sort of been up and down a little bit to begin the season, just in terms of, the numbers game being, a couple goals in the American League, he's, up to 4 in the National Hockey League now. And I'd say 3 of his 4 goals, he scored an empty netter, but 3 of his 4 goals, one scored against goaltenders, have all been very, very nice. And hopefully he gets more chances to use that shot, because when he uses it this effectively, he's a huge asset to the Flames.
I really didn't mind the move to send him down at the time, and I liked that they brought him up quickly. I liked that they brought him up probably feeling still a little bit of the effects of, I can't believe you sent me down. I like, we saw what happened. I mean, I think there were obviously some hurt feelings. And quite frankly, if I was in that position, I'd probably have hurt feelings too. And that's what you want, because that means the players are passionate. And I think the camp wanted to see him back up. He got back up. And I think everything he's done since he's come back up has been so encouraging. And it's been everything that I've wanted to see out of this player for a long time. And so I hope he can continue on this pace, because, I thought he looked good again tonight. The Flames with Coronado on the ice, shots 8-3 in their favor. Pretty good stuff. That's exactly what you want to see. And the good thing is that he was taking some of those shots. He was looking active. He was moving around the offensive zone and looking more confident. And I think for Coronado, the things that he's had to work on, things like his skating and his strength, one of the things that helps you with those things is your confidence. And I think he looks more confident right now than we've seen from him in the NHL.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I'm going to pick on one player who's no longer with the organization. I call it the James Neal test. What are you doing when you're not scoring? The best compliment I can pay to Coronado is that you can put him on the Backlund line. And sure, Backlund and Coleman help because they're so good. They cover up so many deficiencies in other players. You can put anyone with them. But putting Coronado with them, Coronado, in the details of his game, he's able to hold his own as a 200-foot player. And because he has that extra element to his game with his shot, I think he adds a lot to that line, and it makes that line, which is already very formidable with Backlund and Coleman, even more dangerous. So hopefully he can keep it up, because, I think, the big question we had with Coronado is, okay, well, where does he fit in? Like, what's his niche going to be at the NHL level that keeps him in the NHL, the way, Pospisil's pugnaciousness did, or Zari's ability to sort of, create offensively in different situations. And if Coronado can sort of carve out a role for himself there, I don't see any reason why he's going back to the NHL or the AHL anytime soon.
Yeah, he's looked really good, and it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, we obviously saw the news today with Dryden Hunt being called up. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a long-term thing. I'm very curious to see what happens with Anthony Mantha, now apparently on injured reserve, and it's going to be a case of who's up next, because I think the Flames have done a pretty good job of making these players earn their minutes and actually rewarding them. I mean, it has to go both ways, right? You have to give them that time in the American League, and then you have to put them in the positions to succeed. And with Coronado, they've done that. I just wonder what's going to happen next. And it's going to be really interesting to watch, because the fourth line, as it is currently constructed, I almost wonder if there are other players on the farm who would be interesting there. I mean, it's going to be something, because I don't know if you want Rory Cairns playing there. I don't think you do. I don't know if you want Jacob Pelche playing there. I sort of go back and forth on it. William Stromgren is playing a lot better in these last few games. Pike, you were at the game against Bakersfield. Devin Cooley continues to put on an absolute clinic, but who else have you liked recently?
I like Stromgren. He's at the when he's not on his game, he's just quiet. He's not like, there's some players that their B game is very noisy in a bad way. Stromgren, his B game is just quiet, and then he last few games he's able to really find guys with his passing, and he's got some really good situational awareness that I think that you wouldn't really expect from someone with as little NHL experience he has. I'm always going to say, if you have the ability to give someone like Adam Klapka a run, I'd say that's always an option, because Klapka, when he's moving his feet, he's like a freight train. When he's not moving his feet, he's so big that he can fend off defenders with one arm and still keep the puck. I'd say this for the guys that they have right now. If the plan is that it's a short-term absence, or you're just going to use Dryden Hunt as the 13th forward, there's no reason to bring up somebody you have plans for. Bless his heart, I'm a big Dryden Hunt guy. Dryden Hunt is 28 years old. He is what he's going to be. But he's really valuable in that sense, because you can put Dryden Hunt in short term, or you can put him in the press box short term, and you can give a lot more bandwidth and a lot more runway to the younger guys. But if you have the ability to say bring up Pelche for 2 weeks or bring up Klapka or whoever for 2 weeks and give them a taste, I think that's valuable. But I think a lot of it will depend on what the prognosis is for Anthony Mantha and how long he's going to be out, because I think that's the big variable. If it's short term, you might as well just keep Dryden Hunt up and give him a nice little reward for a good start.
Absolutely. I think it's the right call for the time being. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. Good to see Pelche get his first of the season the other night, even if it is into an empty net, but hard to really fault him for not scoring goals when he's been setting up so many. I'll be just really interested to see how they move forward from here. Anyway, we'll move forward just for a brief look at our Bet365 bet of the day for tomorrow. Should be kind of interesting. Only 4 games, I believe, on the docket for Friday, November the 8th. And we're going to take a look at the Vegas game. Vegas taking on the Seattle Kraken, I believe, tomorrow. Vegas, of course, the favored team in this one. And, I kind of wanted to look at the anytime goal scorer bet for Bet365. I use the code NATION. Jack Eichel, plus 245 anytime goal scorer. And, I mean, it's a pretty good bet. I would say in terms of Eichel's a pretty dangerous player, but also I think we have to discount him maybe slightly because he's not going to be playing against the same defense as he was last night, Ryan Pike, when Jack Eichel did score a pretty nice goal, but you kind of have to tax it a little bit because, who were the defensemen out on the ice for that goal? I think, Yasmin, we've got a clip. Maybe we should have a little look maybe at the goal that Jack Eichel scored last night. Because it was sure something. Let's see if we got it. I'll give you a spoiler, just a heads up. It was Jack Eichel getting through Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm on that particular play, and oh boy, did not end so well.
Norris Trophy vote getter Evan Bouchard.
Here we go. Watch number 2. I mean, that's just inertia. I mean, Yasmin, can we play this one again? Can we just start this over? Let's just have a look. He's just not moving. I don't know. I mean, look, I think Evan Bouchard's an extremely talented player, but that's just not quite it. So anyway, it'll be Jack Eichel playing against the Seattle Kraken tomorrow. Unfortunately for him, he won't have that defense to go up against.
Hey, I'm watching the Niagara game against Army tomorrow night, so I don't know. Friends, cheap plug. We're not compensated for this advice. If you're a Wranglers fan and you get Flow Hockey, there's a lot of college games on Flow Hockey. It's arena dependent, so you're not going to get all of each team's games, but you can watch a lot of UMass games, a lot of Niagara games. Penn State with Arseny Sergeyev is on there quite a bit. So cheap plug. Sergeyev is not playing on a game I can watch on television tomorrow or on a web-based thing without paying extra money. But because of Flow Hockey, I get to watch Trevor Hoskin and Niagara. Trevor Hoskin, very quietly, one of the top scorers in the NCAA this year.
See, I hear you say stuff like this. And then I think it's like, oh my God, who would spend their Friday watching Trevor Hoskin? But at the same time, it's the sort of stuff that I would do, honestly. And I call these sorts of games doing broadcast work locally here in the city. But at the same time, then I think of my old buddy Stephen Ellis over at Daily Faceoff, our buddy, who will regularly watch like Team Lithuania or something for hockey play against team. I mean, Stephen Ellis is the kind of guy who has NHL 2004 modded onto like a Steam Deck, and he has NHL 2004 with custom teams like Team Argentina, and he'll have them playing against like Davos HC with Joe Thornton on them, and he'll put them against each other and like stream it on Twitch. That's what Stephen Ellis will do.
You sound jealous of Stephen Ellis.
I am absolutely. But so it just kind of like puts your obsession, if I can call it that, into perspective, Ryan, because I will say I do not plan on watching Niagara tomorrow. With full respect to how good Trevor Hoskin has been to start this season, a kid who, let's give Trevor Hoskin his flowers. A lot of the 24 draft class has been very impressive. Perek, Misa, Basha, Gradin,
Battaglia.
Yeah. Not a lot of people talking Trevor Hoskin, their 4th-round pick, who they picked out of the OJHL, not the OHL, the OJHL. As a 20-year-old.
OJHL most valuable player.
But he
Trevor
was the
Hoskin.
OJHL most valuable player. The Flames loved picking the leading scorers of their respective leagues in last year's draft. They got the USHL leading scorer in Matt Vagradine. They got the OHL's leading defenseman scorer in Zane Parekh. And they got the leading OJHL scorer in Trevor Hoskin. And Hoskin this year, Pike, is off to a really good start. So I can't blame you for wanting to watch one of his games.
I like to see all the players.
Yeah, no, I can't blame you. He's up to 11 points in 9 games. So, you know what? For a 4th-round pick in his first post-draft season, even if he is a little bit older, that's a good news story. So, good stuff there. We just got a little bit more stuff to get through. We'll tell you a little bit about Richmond's Pub. That's going to be a big thing happening here. But before we do, let's just finish up with Bet365. It's the world's largest sports betting platform. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Download the app today. Use the code NATION when you sign up. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And yeah, go on that Eichel anytime goal scorer, because he's just a great player. He should be a Calgary Flame, but hey, that's maybe a moot point. Anyway, let's move forward. We got some other stuff coming up later into December over at the Richmond's Pub. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a Afterburner live on location show on December the 3rd. So if you're one of those people who really loves this show, and there are a lot of people who do, and you want a chance to catch up with some of your favorite hosts, it'll be a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm going to be there. We'll have to sort of wait and see, maybe a little bit closer to, but it's going to be December 3rd. Pike, you going to be there? Probably. Got nothing better to do, right? Other than maybe write another book. Are you working on another one yet?
We'll talk later.
We'll talk later. Hey, lots of stuff being kept under wraps here. I mean, they kept the Jeff Merrick thing a secret from me until a couple days ago. They were pretty stringent on that one. Pike's, I'll give you y'all watching a secret. Pike's probably got already 250 pages written. Just keep it on the down low between all of us. But yeah, no, you'll want to come to Richmond's Pub on December the 3rd. It's the new home away from home for Afterburner, and they're serving up delicious Barn Burner Blonde from Origin Brewing all day at a special low price. They got great food, daily specials, TVs everywhere. Richmond's ready for game day, and they're just a great spot. So head over to Richmond's Pub, and yeah, once again, December 3rd, that's going to be the show. Let's see. Do we have any questions, Yasmin, from the good folks in the chat? Because Lord knows the folks, they got questions. I mean, I got questions. Let's see. Oh, we had one there for a sec. This is killing me, Ken says. So I'll ask you guys, Rhett dodged it 2 days in a row. Is this hybrid zone defense responsible for so many left alone in front of the Flames goalies? Pike, I'm going to defer to you on this one because I don't know what hybrid zone defense is.
Well, let me just note that I did not play defense at the National Hockey League level. I played it for a year in novice, and then I was moved up because I skated well enough that I could, keep up with the good kids. I think there's probably something that contributes it. It's also, for the lack of a better term, a bunch of guys that haven't really played together a ton. And so, if you let's just call a spade a fade. Hanifin and Tanev playing together, they could, they know when the other person blinks. You just know each other's tendencies. One guy is going to the corner, I'll go over here, those kind of things. And on some pairings, you have a guy that's better at directing traffic than the other guy. So especially when Tanev was on the ice, Tanev would be a guy who would very audibly be telling his teammates, I'll go over here, you go do that, in the middle of everything. And early on, I think they're still figuring out chemistry, figuring out roles, and figuring out who's deferring to who in those situations. And when you're figuring things out, occasionally guys get sort of left all alone in front.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also a matter of, Weegar and Anderson, again, like you were sort of saying, trying to grow into those roles a little bit. Weegar, I mean, for as veteran as he is, as savvy as he is, he's not, the most, it's not that he's not the most experienced. It's just that he's still, a little bit new, relatively speaking, to the NHL for a guy who's his age. He was a late bloomer, and I think he is still getting accustomed not just to being in Calgary. I mean, he's certainly warmed up to this place very well, but he's also, I don't think, used to necessarily being the top dog. And Chris Tanev, might not have been the flashiest guy, but I have a sense that within the locker room hierarchy last year, I feel like he was the top dog for all intents and purposes on that defensive core. And now it's kind of Weegar's job, and that's a lot to live up to. Chris Tanev was an outstanding two-way defenseman for this team. And I say two-way because I don't think there's really anybody on this team right now who holds a candle to the way that he was able to transition that puck nightly up the ice. He was just so good at it, even if he wasn't necessarily the guy who got all the points. Weegar's getting into that role. He's going to get there. Anderson is looking pretty comfortable. And like you were saying, Pike, the depth is just, it's not quite at the point where it was and where it will be at some point in the future. So good stuff. Got any more questions, Yasmin? Let's have a look. Well, I'm not sure if we do. I see somebody in the chat was asking when the Flames are going to recall Sven Berchi, the good old Portland Winterhawk, who is now a coach for the Flames. Thanks, Max. We appreciate that. Or coach for the Winterhawks.
Yeah, he's coaching the Dub.
Yeah, coaching the Winterhawks, meant to say. Yeah, but I mean, it kind of goes back to the conversation about call-ups. It also goes to a conversation that I want to have about the World Juniors, because obviously Sven, being a Swiss guy, never really had the chance to shine in a huge way at the World Juniors. But it's kind of interesting. I was thinking out loud about this to myself earlier this week. The Flames, almost all their prospects in their system are Canadian or Russian. And when you look at it, Canada, the hardest team to make. Russia, the hardest team to make in another sense because they're not playing. And so I think that kind of makes it all the more impressive that when you look at it really closely, I think there's a chance, the Flames could still have 3 or 4 representatives at the World Juniors this year. And we're getting to the point where these mock team rosters are going to start to come out because we're already talking about the 4 nations. That's 2 months later. I think the World Juniors in them, the Flames, they're going to have some guys there.
And yeah, we'll get into this on another day, but I'm honestly more excited for the Olympics than I am for the 4 nations because I think there's so many more fascinating players that could be playing at the Olympics for the Flames than playing the 4 nations. 4 nations, probably a couple, maybe 3. World Juniors, probably a handful. Probably a couple here and there. But I think the breadth of players from different countries that could be representing the Flames the Olympics in 2026 is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I will just say this. I think Zane Parekh, we all expect to play for Team Canada. Axel Hurtig, we all expect to play for Team Sweden. Etienne Morin is a pretty good chance for,
Hurtig's a
maybe. For Team Canada. I think Hurtig will make it, but we'll see. And just being one of the older guys on that Swedish team, but we'll see. Etienne Morin is definitely in the maybe category for Canada. I think I would say maybe 60-40 at this point. They've got a couple guys who they might want to promote over him. The guy who I would not discount, just even as a camp invite, is one of their second-round picks from this past year. And I really wonder if Jacob Battaglia's strong start makes him a candidate just to get an invite. And based on some of the people I've chatted with, I think there's a pretty good chance that he at least gets in on that periphery.
And it sounds like camp invites will be announced in the next couple weeks, so we should know pretty quick.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. I think of their 2 second-round picks from this past year, I think Battaglia is more likely, just as sort of a bigger body off to a better start. Also, as a 2006, they like to bring guys at least to camp who they can maybe look at a little bit for next year's team as well. So that'll be something to watch for the next little bit. If that's pretty much it, I think, for the questions, unless we got anything else, I don't think we do. Pike, anything else you just want to wrap us up with?
No, another busy sports Saturday in Calgary. To give an early plug,
yes.
Flames are playing a matinee game against Buffalo. I believe it's an 11 a.m. Mountain start. Cavalry plays in the Canadian Premier League final at 1 p.m. at Spruce Meadows. It's on CBC, so if you want to watch the Flames game and then flip over to the CPL final, it's on probably the easiest television channel to get in Canada. And then in the evening, 6 p.m. start for the Wranglers as they face the Henderson Silver Knights. So if you're in the mood to drag the kiddos or the fam jam around to local sports in various places and entities and different kinds of sports. There's all it's a buffet of sports from a local perspective on Saturday.
You said it. It's going to be a really great Saturday. Can't wait for the Cavalry game. Can't wait to see the Flames and the Wranglers back in action. We should just sort of run through the next couple games. Like you said, Pike, on Saturday morning, it'll be the Flames in Buffalo taking on the Sabres. They had a big win tonight, so it will be interesting to see how that one plays out. Then a back-to-back next week, the Flames hosting the LA Kings, then heading right back out on the road for another couple more. Or just another one more, taking on the Vancouver Canucks the following night. This is October, I think, but nevertheless, November 12th, it'll be Calgary in Vancouver. And then on November 15th, it will be Calgary hosting Nashville. And then a little bit of a break. They'll have 3 days off playing the New York Islanders on the 19th. And then on my birthday, it'll be the Rangers in town. So looking forward to seeing those matchups coming up, seeing if the Flames can maybe build on their 7-5-2 record.
Yeah, and folks, word of warning, the Monday game is both, I believe it's a 6:30 start, and it's the first Flames game ever on Amazon Prime. So
yes.
If don't get caught missing the first part of the game because you're scrambling to figure out what the hell channel it's on or where your Prime login is. It's the Flames and Kings. They always seem to have really feisty, eventful games. It's low key one of my favorite rivalries to cover surrounding this team because there's always some bad blood there.
Throwback to the old Flames pay-per-view days with Rob Kerr and Roger Millions. Can't wait. It'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully a little bit better production values. No disrespect to those broadcasters. They did a great job. But boy, those pay-per-view broadcasts in glorious 480p. Kind of glad they're a thing of the past. Amazon Prime should be a lot of fun. November 11th. That's going to be the Kings and the Flames. Well, Pike, that pretty much does it for us. 4-3, the final score in favor of the Boston Bruins here at TD Garden on this Thursday evening. The Flames back in action a couple days from now. Until then, I don't know. How are we going to leave this one? The Flames, you know what? We'll take it like this. At least Matt Coronado got a point. At least Diego Sharangovich scored a goal. At least they scored a few goals. But hopefully next time they get that one extra. Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.